As of August 8, 2022, the National Registry of Exonerations listed 3,200 defendants who were convicted of crimes in the United States and later exonerated because they were innocent. 53% of them were black, nearly 4 times the proportion of the population, which is now about 13.6%. We are now in 2023. Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle Rifkin, and I have on the phone a gentleman who is dealing with a real-life crisis. This crisis, I'm going to let him speak, so please, man, introduce yourself, my brother.
My name is Lemar Martin, and I'm currently incarcerated at Greenhaven Correctional Facility for a crime that I did not commit.
Now, walk me through what happened.
Well, I went to work on June 5th. June 5th, 2008, and I got a phone call to come home saying that there was an emergency. And when I got home, I seen the lady that I was living with at the time, and her godson that she had custody of was in her arms and he wasn't breathing. So when I came in, I said, "What happened?" She said, "I don't know. He wasn't breathing. It's just too much." So I grabbed him and started performing CPR and told her to call the police. She gets on the phone, and I'm thinking that she's dialing the officer. She calls her aunt and her mother. Her mother gets there, and I'm still trying to perform the CPR on the child, and her mother calls the ambulance. After the ambulance is arriving, her mother and her aunt is there, I go downstairs and let the ambulance in. I go in willingly to the 81st Precinct in Bed-Stuy, and they question me. So they ask me questions, I give them a statement. The statement I give them, I told them the events of what happened the day before, which was one of her family members had died. The next day I went to work, and then this transpired. Now, some 13 years later, after I already did a direct appeal, I went to the Court of Appeals, which I was denied. I did a federal Hague, which was denied, and I went to the Second Circuit, in which I was denied. And I kept wondering why I was denied, because they're telling me that I'm in prison. I'm charged with murder and the second depraved indifference to human life. But they said I didn't do the crime, I just didn't stop it from happening. So I'm actually in jail because they're saying that I watched my ex-fiance murder her godson.
Now, at the time that this happened, you wasn't home, was you?
No.
During the time of the trial, Lemar Martin's defense attorney failed to produce witnesses or proof on video that he was actually at work during the time of the crime. He also failed to provide proof that he was actually at work with a time card which was stamped showing he was at his place of work. Later, you'll come to know that the prosecutor also suppressed evidence, withheld evidence, and denied to submit evidence to the judge and the jury for a proper trial.
So to this day, I still don't actually know what happened. But from what she said when she took her plea statement.
Now, what did she take a plea deal? Did she implement you? I seen the documents, and she never once said that you were even there. She never once said you was involved in the abuse. What happened that you ended up with these charges? Because she never implicated you in anything.
Well, like I said, after I did all these different appeals, I was getting frustrated. So I kept going back to the drawing board because I know that I'm innocent and I didn't do anything. So one of the guys that work in the law library asked me a question and said, "Let's start back from the beginning." Then we found out, by starting back from the beginning and going to the paperwork, that I actually was the fall guy for a cover-up for ACS and Family Court. Yeah, no, this Ms. Cheatham is my co-defendant.
Okay, I confused the two.
Yeah,
okay.
She's the one that actually, the person that admitted to the crime.
Right.
Cheatham is the one that admitted to the crime.
But she never said you was part of the crime. She never implicated you in the crime. From all the paperwork I read, she never said you were involved or even there.
Not at all. I've never been implicated, and even all the way up to the high courts, they all agreed that I didn't do the crime, I just can stop it from happening. But I can't stop something from happening if I don't know it is happening.
What happened to the prosecutor of this case?
Well, the prosecutor of this case, Kyle Reeves, he was under heavy scrutiny before. The current DA of Brooklyn, Kings County, Eric Gonzalez, readily admitted in an article for the Daily News dated December 28, 2020, pertaining to Gregory Ellis, that in one case, former DA Kyle Reeves withheld evidence. Also, the accusation of the corruption of the applicable time that Charles Hine was the head DA for Kings County. So I was under the corruption of Charles Hines and then the corrupt ADA Kyle Reeves.
Now, is that ADA still an ADA? Is he still working, or something happened to him?
No, he's not even working with them no more because the whole office is gone because he was one of the ones that left when Charles Hines was kicked out of office. Okay.
And what happened to the ACS worker that was involved in this situation?
Well, Ms. Bell ended up getting another case, which was Marcella Pierce, a 4-year-old girl who ends up dying due to the lack of ACS doing the proper investigation at the hands of her grandmother and her mother.
And did she end up going to jail or getting fired or both?
She ended up being tried for the case, and she ended up getting she no longer works for ACS anymore. She did a plea deal, and they just like they washed up. Apparently, if you put her name in there, I heard that she's working for another government agency at the present time already.
Wow. Even though she was found guilty with negligence and not doing the job properly.
But this is what I'm saying about that is also the court ordered, like I said, in 2007, the court ordered investigation for Ms. Cheatham for her to gain custody of her godson. Now, from one visit, the courts told ACS that no other investigation was needed. Now, they told me that my inability to stop the crime from happening was the reason why they found me guilty for murder. But had they did the proper investigation and not give Ms. Cheatham the child based on her prior ACS case with her own children, I wouldn't be in prison.
Now, before this, did you have a criminal record, any arrests, or any situations that they could put you in and label you as a threat, a danger to society?
No. Actually, I was gainfully employed for New York City Housing Authority, and I also worked for Premier Restoration Corporate Carpet Cleaning.
And what prohibited them from talking to people regarding your character, witnesses, putting you not at the scene during the situation? What prohibited all that from happening?
That was my lawyer. My lawyer didn't do his proper thing by actually subpoena anybody from my job to state that I was at work. And then they said that my time card didn't register, even though when the investigators went, they found out that I was at work. They just don't know what time I signed in, because at certain places they have a machine called a kiosk machine in which you have to swipe in, and if you don't swipe, you get to fill out an alternate time sheet.
While you're listening, I would remind you, how does one get charged for failing to prevent a crime when they're actually at work?
No, it was proven and documented that I was at work that morning.
Now, what stopped them from verifying your existence at work by revisiting the camera footage at that time?
Because my lawyer was very ineffective, and I found out about him due to my first appeal, my direct appeal, that he was an ex-judge who got caught with cocaine possession and tax evasion.
And the judge,
all documented.
And the judge of this case, what stopped you from reaching out to this judge or his court to try and further answer questions or ask questions about this situation? The original judge.
Well, according to, I heard that Dustin Ryback has passed away. That was the judge in my case.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to do a motion to set aside the verdict, but he